Welcome back. Oh, that was a disaster. Welcome back to my channel. It's Monday. That means it's time for another Manga Monday book club. Today we are discussing My Hero Academia Volume 4. I'm trying my best to be consistent with Manga Monday Book Club, so bear with me as I try my best to get organized over here. As somebody who is not organized, it's hard to get organized. Anyway, but for next week, we are reading A Silent Voice Volume 1, and we will be discussing this next Monday. The discussion post should already be up on the Goodreads page, so I will leave a link to that down below in the description. If you're not a part of our Goodreads community, you should join us. It's great. Join us. We'd love to have you. But today we are discussing My Hero Academia Volume 4. Before we dive into spoilers, I'm going to share some non-spoilery thoughts. This is one of my favorite volumes because we get to explore a little bit more of Todoroki's character, who is a character who is very mysterious up until this point, and it's nice to kind of get more of a background on him and learn more about him. I also really enjoy this volume because I feel like we see some characters really push themselves to grow. They could very easily stick to these situations that make them really comfortable, but no, they're not about that. They're all about growth and pushing themselves to do things outside of their comfort zones. We get to see some intense one-on-one battles in this one, which I really enjoyed seeing, and I feel like in this one we also just get to see different sides of different characters, and it just adds on extra layers to these already layered characters. Those are my non-spoilery thoughts. We are now going to be jumping into a full-on discussion for My Hero Academia Volume 4, so if you have not read this volume, go read it, then come back and join us for the discussion. I'm structuring this discussion a little bit differently than I normally do, trying something fresh, something new. I have 10 discussion points, so let's get started. First up, I want to talk about Ida's independence. Ida has decided that he does not want to work with URURAKA and DEKU during the cavalry battle. Wow, I can really speak words well. On one hand, it made me sad that Ida didn't want to work with them because when you've got the golden trio, you want them to shine together. Golden duo just doesn't have the same ring to it. But on the other hand, I'm glad that he did make this decision because they need to be working outside of their inner circle to grow and become better heroes. My fear is that if they constantly work together, they're going to become reliant on each other. And when they're out there in the real world and they're heroes on their own, they're not going to always be able to work together. And on top of that, they should be growing individually so that when they do come together, they can all be ballers. Yeah. Top-notch heroes. When they come together, they can all be better. That's what I was trying to say. Not ballers. Where did that come from? This also kind of solidifies a healthy rivalry between Deku and Ida. Everyone's fighting to become the best of the best. Some a little bit more aggressively than others, but hey, we all have our own ways of doing things. How did you guys feel about the trio not working together in this battle? Let me know down below in the comments. Number 2, the best team. Which team did you guys feel like had the best system in the cavalry battle? I feel like personally, I would have wanted to be on the perv who must not be named on his team because even though I hate that guy, they literally had somewhat of a tank system going on. Like they were fully protected. Mind you, there was a flaw in their system and they weren't watching their backs, as we see later on how their headband got snatched. But it could have been a really solid system had they just paid attention to their backs. Number 3, minute to win it. I'm finding that often the most important time in these tournaments is that last minute. You'd think you're a winner chicken dinner, but anyone at any time could come through and snatch your chicken and cluck their way to victory. And that's pretty much what happens in this battle. Todoroki aims, shoots, fires, and gets his icy hot hands on Deku's headband. Talk about intense. Seeing Deku go from shining star to 0 real quick. I can't lie, I didn't really love the direction this scene went in, just because it felt like a little too convenient for my liking. I'm a Deku stan hard to the core. This household is Deku stan certified. But, and I mean a big ol' but, the fact that Tokoyami just so happened to sneakily grab a headband, but we never got to see it go down just screams convenient. Plot convenience. I love Deku, but I personally think it'd be great to have scenes where Deku doesn't always succeed. It's okay to see him fall on his face every now and then, because that's a part of becoming the greatest hero of all time. Having those moments of weakness and improving on that. I'm sure we'll get moments like that in the future though. I must say that while we're all about Deku in this household, I had mad respect for Bakugo in this scene. He had all his points taken from him, but he didn't for 1 second give up on building up his points again. And this is really where that every second of the battle counts. Even if it's the last minute, you are still in it to win it. And what does he do? He gets himself some headbands and ends up victorious. Albeit the boy's gotta work on his team skills because currently they're non-existent. It would have been nice for him to like clue his partners in on what he was doing, but regardless, he slayed. Number 4, icy hot spotlight. We get a peek into Todoroki's past in this volume, and hot diggity dang, it's drenched in sadness. Someone needs to come through and wring out the sadness because he deserves the world, and instead he's got a terrible father. I'm looking at you, Endeavor. It's fascinating to me how one of the top heroes, the number 2 hero in the world, can be so corrupt. He's put on a pedestal in the public heroic eye, and yet behind closed doors, he's the worst. I think it's kind of a great showcase of how we can sometimes glorify really terrible people without realizing it, which is why we shouldn't glorify people at all, because everyone is flawed. Is that Hannah Montana I hear in the background singing Nobody's Perfect? I think so. The fact that Todoroki was the spawn of a quirk marriage experiment, and the worst father of the decade goes to Endeavor. We learned that Todoroki was basically brought into this world to be a hero who could exceed All Might, just to fulfill Endeavor's own ambitions. Can you imagine? What the heck? Sounds to me like he's taken a rivalry a little too far. And by little, I mean massively. I mean, sure, it must be really annoying to be like the second best hero, but like, come on now. You don't have to have a forced quirk marriage just to get back at your rival. Like, bah! It's devastating learning about his mother and how she was always upset, and how one day she freaking snapped and chucked scalding water on his face. And all because she just couldn't stand seeing him. Like, seeing him is basically like a big trigger for her. I feel so bad for Todoroki, but it's also really nice to see that he hasn't turned out to be this awful person, because I feel like a lot of people in this situation would turn out so bad. But he swerved his life car into a solid direction. His way of going up against his father is by not using his left side, though we do see that him going up against Deku, he was kind of tempted to use it, and he does use it a little bit. Do you guys think that Todoroki will come to accept his left side? And will he be able to use it comfortably in the future, or do you think he'll forever kind of hold back that side of himself? Let me know down below in the comments. 5. Student dropouts. A few of the students end up dropping out of the next round because they feel like the last round they weren't really there, they weren't really present, they basically blacked out because of that guy. Because of you, it's all your fault. What did you guys think of the situation though? Like, if you were in their shoes, would you drop out as well? I get where they're coming from, because they obviously feel like they don't deserve the slots because they feel like they didn't work for it. But it's also not their fault that they were paired up with Shinso and that they were brainwashed. Like, you can't control that, obviously. And I don't feel like it's reason enough for them to drop out completely. Like, I feel like that's taking it a little too far. I get it, they're working to become heroes and they've got pride on the line and they've got morals and all that jazz. And I commend them, but I also don't think that they should have dropped out. If I were in that position, I would not have dropped out. It's not my fault that Shinso brainwashed me. Blame him. Kick him out of the game. Sorry, y'all, I already have my seatbelt on. It'd be too difficult to unbuckle it. Number 6, Deku and Shinso face off. The second the brainwash hits Deku, I'm just like, pack your bags, brother. You did what you could do. But then he gets a full 360 and gets to unpack and stay in the battle. So he gets snapped out of it after seeing all these eyeballs in the distance staring back at him. And it's kind of assumed that these are the eyes of the past users of One for All. First off, creepy. Secondly, it was kind of cool, and they also kind of helped Deku snap out of it, and he was able to get back in the game. I feel like because of the fact that Deku doesn't fully understand his power yet, we're still finding all these different layers to his quirk. Like, are these past users that we saw now guardians watching over Deku? Can they sometimes intervene? Deku really snaps in taking out Shinso. He pulled out some WWE moves. Number 7, the Brainwasher. I feel bad because when we were first introduced to Shinso's quirk, I was quick to be like, oh, I could definitely see Shinso becoming a villain down the line. But then we have that moment in this book where he's literally like, the first assumption that everybody makes when they learn of my quirk is that I'm going to end up being a villain. That shut me right up. And it was a reminder that it's not the quirk that makes the villain, it's the motive behind the quirk. Does that make sense? Number 8, All Might crushing my dreams. That is a very dramatic title for this discussion point. All Might talks about how the vision of the eyes was more so Deku just coming into his powers. It was a sign of him coming into his powers, and how they weren't what undid Deku's brainwashing. But maybe seeing them helped Deku unlock something inside of him to snap out of it. I don't know. I personally like the idea of the people who used One for All in the past now being guardians for Deku. And I don't know, I kind of hope that that does end up being a part of his quirk, but I feel like All Might would have been like, yeah, they're guardians. But he was like, no, they're not. And that is why I titled this section All Might Crushing My Dreams. Number 9, Todoroki and Endeavor. We see a little interaction between Todoroki and Endeavor, and it's so awful seeing how terrible Endeavor is to Todoroki and the way that he talks to him. It makes sense why Todoroki does not want to use his left side. If I were in his shoes, I would not be using my left side either. I feel like Endeavor is going to be a little too happy if Todoroki does ever use his left side. And I don't want him to give Endeavor that joy. It sucks that his dad is such a dick, because if Todoroki used both sides, he would be unstoppable. Number 10, Ururaka rejection. How did you guys feel about Ururaka rejecting Deku's offer on his notes on Bakugo? Smart move? Not so smart move? I feel like this goes back to my first point on how they all need to be kind of growing on their own and they can't be relying on each other. While I don't think that it's the smartest move, I think it's smart in the fact that she needs to figure things out on her own. Like, she's not going to be able to ask Deku for notes on villains while she's out on the field field being a hero. Ain't gonna happen. Plus, I'm really excited to see how she handles the battle with Bakugo on her own. That's it for my discussion on My Hero Academia Volume 4. You guys should let me know down below in the comments all your thoughts on this volume. Again, next week we are discussing A Silent Voice Volume 1. The discussions for this should already be up on the Goodreads page, so I will leave a link to that down below in the description. Come join us on the discussion over there. We'd love to have you. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe, and I will see you guys soon with a new video. Later, my dudes, my friends, my manga book club lovelies. Later.